So the Google Pixel event has finally happened, and in this video, I'm going to very quickly go over some of the new details, the specifications, the things that we learned about the Pixel 7, the Pixel 7 Pro, and the Google Pixel Watch. We will also very briefly touch on the Pixel tablet because they did mention it, but it is not available to be pre-ordered, to be purchased today. So let's start things off here, as they did in the show, with the Pixel 7. So this is the Pixel 7. We've known what this thing would look like for quite some time, and it is not surprising really at all. We are looking at $599 for this device. $25 a month for 24 months if you do the Google financing is not too shabby. So let's scroll through this and kind of see what we're looking at here. 6.3-inch fast and responsive display. Okay, so they leave out a lot of details, and this is the stuff I'm going to try to fill in here for you guys. Far as we know, this is a 90 hertz display just like last time, and it should be able to drop from 90 down to 60. Unlike the Pixel 7 Pro we'll talk about later, has a higher refresh and is able to actually drop lower, which should save some battery life. This should just be 90 and 60. IP68 water resistant Gorilla Glass Victus front and back is great to see. Of course, the visor is now no longer glass. I believe it's some sort of aluminum type material, so that should be a little bit more durable. Yeah, there we go. It is actually made from 100% recycled aluminum, which is very cool to see. 25% brighter screen, even in sunlight, so having that higher peak brightness should be a great thing to have as well. I think we're looking at like 1400 nits, if that means anything to you. Of course, we have the new Tensor G2 is what they're calling it. This is the second generation of the Google Tensor chip, and it's going to be in everything. It's going to be in the 7, the 7 Pro, and the Pixel tablet as well. It should be a little bit faster. We're hearing something like 15-ish% faster, but also potentially more efficient. Software is going to be a big part of this as well. This is now their second year of working on the software. Well, theoretically more than their second year, but you know what I mean. This is the second launch, so the software should be coming along with Tensor quite a bit now. All-day battery that can last up to 3 days. So they're saying 24 hours, and if you turn on the extreme battery saver, up to 72 hours on that single charge. So hopefully that additional efficiency there coming into play. They talked a lot about some AI features, like the ability to actually, you're on a phone call, right? And the person you're talking to, you're in a noisy, windy place where this phone is going to be able, I think they said with a later update, to filter out that background noise on their side. So you're having a better experience. You're hearing them more clearly. That is a very cool thing to have. And then, of course, live translation is a really cool feature as well. Face-to-face conversations like they show, using the camera, pointing it at some text and having it live in front of you translate that text. Very cool stuff. Talking about the cameras now. So it's the same setup as before. 50 megapixel sensor for the standard, for the wide, and then a 12 megapixel for the ultra wide, but they are adding some new stuff to it, like cinematic blur. So you've got portrait mode. Well, this is effectively portrait mode in video. I'm typically pretty skeptical of these modes. They don't normally look that good. We're going to have to see if this is actually going to be any different. This little preview here is kind of low quality, so you can't really tell a whole lot. We're going to have to test that out and see if it's any good. We do have here the front-facing camera is a little bit wider, 92.8 degrees, which should allow you to fit more subjects into your selfie. Super res zoom is something you've got here. Now, you don't have a telephoto lens, but they do have some really cool software magic to make that zoom a bit better. So now you're going to get something similar to having an actual optical zoom at 2x. And the way that they're doing this is really cool. So you've got a 50 megapixel sensor, but when you take a picture with it, it doesn't actually output at 50 megapixels, right? It does something called pixel binning, where you take so many pixels and you group them together into one super pixel to take that photo. Well, when you're using this digital zoom, so you're zooming in up to 8 times here, what's going to happen is the camera's going to stop binning. So you're going to actually use the full resolution of the image, and then there's some other software magic involved so that you should be able to get a pretty good looking zoom shot without needing a dedicated telephoto lens. That is very cool. Tons of cool AI stuff here, like photo unblur, where you can actually have a picture that there's motion blur on. They showed several demos of this. I'll play this one again. It's sharpening things up, not just blur, but like motion blur. And it seems like it was doing a pretty good job. Of course, Magic Eraser is there, so you can remove things from the photo that you don't want to be there, camouflage objects and things like that. So lots of really cool AI stuff for the photo editing. So they spent some time on some accessibility stuff, like a thing to let you take selfies if you're blind. It will literally tell you, like, hey, you need to move your camera to your left, look to your left. It'll help you frame up your selfie and take the photo. That is very, very cool. I love seeing the accessibility stuff. And then they talk more about improvements to Real Tone, which is their algorithmic approach to making sure people with darker skin tones, their photos look accurate to what they see with their eyes. This is one of those things that, I mean, you can look at me. I'm a white guy, you know. I had no concept of this being a problem. This had never occurred to me. And there's things like this, you know, people like myself just aren't dealing with. We're just not aware of. We take it for granted. So this is really cool to me that it's like, oh, this was a problem apparently, and they're going to try and fix it. So like to see improvements on that stuff. Also, looking at the technical specs now, we do, like I said, 6.3 inch screen. You can kind of see the dimensions there. The colors we have are lemongrass, snow, and obsidian. I think all of them are pretty good. I'd probably go with either snow or obsidian, though. I'd like to see a black bar, black on the sides. Go for that Pixel 2 XL Panda look from back in the day, but I digress. Here are some more specifications. Here you see the weight, the height, the depth. You can read these things yourself. 4355 milliamp hour battery. Fast charging is up to 30 watts, which is okay. 8 gigs of RAM, 128 or 256 storage, Tensor G2. Unfortunately, the wide angle is 114 degrees. Now, the 7 Pro is getting a much wider lens, and one of the biggest complaints about this wide angle lens is probably going to be that it's not really all that much wider than your standard lens. I wish they had have pushed that up a little bit further, but sadly they did not. We do now have, in addition to the fingerprint unlock, we also have face unlock now, so you can have either one you want to use. This is not going to be as secure as something like what Apple has or what Google had on the Pixel 4, but it is there as an option. All right, so let's jump over to the Pixel 7 Pro now. We've covered a lot of things. They're going to be the same, so we're going to look at what's different here. We have that 5x optical zoom, which is the primary difference. And of course, we'll talk about some other ones as well. $899, and it will be $37.46 a month for 24 months if you do finance it that way. Let's scroll down. A 10 to 120 hertz display. So that's a big one. It's a faster display, but not only that, it can go down to a lower refresh rate, which should save you some battery. 6.7 inch QHD plus display. That's a very, very large, nice display. Triple camera setup, which we'll talk about a bit more later. Same thing here with the aluminum, the water resistance. It's brighter as well. 12 gigs of RAM in this instance. Same Tensor G2, but now we do have what they're calling a pro level camera system. Triple camera layout. As we go through these, the wide angle 12 megapixel sensor here, 125.8 degree field of view, much wider than we have before, and really glad to see that. Wish that it had been put on the other one as well. That's a bummer. 50 megapixel wide lens as your primary, same thing you get on the other one. And then a 48 megapixel telephoto, which is 5x optical, and you can see what the difference is here as you go through this. That's 5 times. You can digitally punch into 10 times, and they're doing some really cool stuff with their camera here. So as I mentioned on the Pixel 7, when you zoom in digitally, it's going to stop binning, and it's going to use that higher resolution. It's going to do all kinds of algorithms to apparently make that digital zoom really good. Well, that's important on the Pixel 7. Because you got to think about this. It's got a 1 times and then it's got a 5 times optical. That means anything between 1 and 5 is going to be a digital crop. So they're doing a lot of cool stuff here. Not only are they doing the stuff where they stop binning and use all kinds of software magic to get there, they're apparently also at medium, zooms like 3 and up or something. I think they said 1 and 2 was what I talked about. And then I think they said beyond that up to 5. What they're going to do is they're literally going to use the telephoto lens in the middle and then mosaic around the rest of it. So they're going to make like a composite image where you're going to get that high quality in the middle and then I guess use the digital zoom on the outside. So if they can find a way to make that not look weird where like the edges have much worse quality, so I think they can probably figure this out okay. That could be really, really impressive. So they're coming up with very strange ways to address what could have been a problem. And of course, we're good up to 30x with this sensor, which is, of course, Samsung's doing 100x. I don't know how often that gets used. We're going to have to compare, seeing these reviews, how well this 5x handles, doing these similar things versus the 10x on the S22 Ultra. Something else that's exclusive to the 7 Pro is the ability to use the wide angle like a macro lens. Because it is very wide and it has autofocus, you can get in very, very close and take some really nice macro shots. Cinematic blur is still there, real tone, photo on blur, guided frames for accessibility use, all that stuff is the same. Going to the technical specs, a lot of this will be the same as well. It is a bigger screen, and you have, as far as the colors, hazel, snow, and then obsidian. So you trade out lemongrass for hazel, which I think is a good choice. I think the hazel, looks a little bit better. As I mentioned, 12 gigs of RAM, 24-hour battery, 72 with extreme battery saver. I didn't mention this on the Pixel 7, but they both apparently have a built-in VPN that will be coming soon. That is very, very interesting to see. Fingerprint unlock, face unlock, you pretty much know what we're talking about here. So like I said earlier, $899 for the Pixel 7 Pro, $37.46 if you finance it through Google. Let's move over now to the Pixel Watch as this page decides to randomly reload. All right, there is the Pixel Watch. We've seen this thing leaked left, right, and center. Several different color options here that you can see. That is the champagne gold and hazel active band, matte black case, obsidian band. That is silver case, charcoal band, silver case, chalk active band, and they're going to be offering different bands. I think it'd be like $50 a piece for these things. This is a Fitbit device. This has the full Fitbit functionalities. That is cool to see. They say that it's beautiful inside and out. Well, that is a subjective thing. It is a bold circular design. You can see the appearance of it there. There's not really going to be a lot to say about this. There you go. 20 different bands you can style the thing with. Recycled stainless steel finish. 4G connectivity. It is good against scratches and splashes, I say, which I'm curious about because it does have glass rounding around the edges. How much will that thing get scratched over time? That is going to be hard to say. Google Assistant there on your wrist. Of course, that's something you're going to have. They talked about Google Maps and having your navigation there. These aren't necessarily new features. These are just sort of Wear OS things. Google Wallet is there. Assistant, again, mentioned to actually dictate things and to get calls and things like that going. So that's fine. As I mentioned, the Fitbit functionality is there. Fitbit's most accurate heart rate tracking yet. It's going to have the electrocardiogram, something that these top-end premium devices now do tend to offer. Sleep tracking, a little bit difficult for me to get excited about sleep tracking because they didn't talk about the battery life, but it's going to be about 24 hours. So maybe you're going to have part of your routine when you get up out of bed, you're going to go take a shower, throw it on the charger, and hopefully this thing is quick enough to charge while you're showering to get you that next 24-hour period. I think that would kind of be what I would be hoping. Fall detection is there, which is something Google is adding in. They've had things like this in the past with car crash detection like several years ago, but fall detection here coming to the watch. And then Fitbit Premium for 6 months is included with the purchase. Here's a really interesting though, the ability to set up and switch between devices with ease. Now, I don't know if that means it's not going to have to reset itself, or if they literally mean like I can switch devices with ease. That would be a really great thing to see because right now I'm going between two phones, Duo and Z Fold 4, and when I do that, I'm literally switching watches. Luckily, I have two really good smartwatches, so that's fine, but it would be really cool if I could just do a quick thing and move them back and forth between devices. Would love to see this be just a feature across all Wear OS watches if that is the case. As far as the technical specs go, it is a 41mm diameter watch. It's not super huge. And we got another look at some colors here. We'll roll through these as I'm talking. There's really not a whole lot else to say about it. It's a smartwatch. The battery life isn't fantastic, and it's going to be $349 or about $30 a month should you choose to grab that. As for the Pixel tablet, it's pretty much what I told you it was going to be about a year ago. It will be docking to a speaker dock and basically charging and becoming a giant Google Nest Home hub. Really not a whole lot else was shared. I mean, you can see what it looks like. No release date or price was given, probably sometime 2023. It's really about all there is to say about the Google Pixel tablet. But there you go. That's pretty much the whole event in a nutshell. That is the differences between the 7, the 7 Pro, your Pixel Watch that are detailed, and a little bit about that Pixel tablet coming. I will have links in the description should you want to purchase any of these devices. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe. I will see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.